We're here at the Monster Gate, where Infernoid's just received a recent buff. Oh, here comes one of the monsters now.
Oh, hey.
Oh, well, you look kind of innocent. You don't seem scary.
Now listen, I want to talk to you about the viability of Dark Magician.
Oh.
I played Dark Magician all through Zoo format
Oh, no.
and beat all of my friends.
No.
The core of the deck
No!
is
No!
Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. In my misguided attempt to try everything even marginally impacted by the ban list, I've made my way down to the spell cards, and wow, look what I ran into. The move of Monster Gate to 3 may be manna from heaven for our malicious mates, the Infernoids, but is 2 more copies of a game-winning card enough to fling our fiendish friends into the first tier? Let's check out LAIR Infernoid. So here's the list, and shockingly, not a lot has changed since the last time we tried the strategy. It just looks more consistent. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. So firstly, for those of you that don't know, Infernoid is about the 6th best deck from Duelist Alliance format. It's had its periods of playability, often predicated on the legality of extremely powerful graveyard enablers like That Grass Looks Greener or Fairy Tale Snow. While these individual incidents of idiotic design have since been banned, the core of big monsters that like being in the graveyard has persevered, and their strategy has been streamlined through a series of supplementary support cards like Void Feast and Lair of Darkness. These cards, when combined with the Lil Noid's banish effects, add the capacity for control to a deck that's otherwise quite feast or famine. Because their ability to abuse generic graveyard tools and because of their particular points of interaction, the archetype has never been more than a few meta decks' reliance on the graveyard or one powerful setup tool away from rogue playable. And speaking of powerful graveyard setup tools, Monster Gate's back at 3! How's that for a segue? Alongside consistent access to one of the most powerful self-mill spells ever printed, the deck has now been freed from the shackles of its longtime dependent partner, Lightsworn. Now it sports a spiffy and svelte 3 monsters total that can be normal summoned, meaning you're going to mill around 15 cards every time you pass through the Monster Gate. And I shouldn't have to tell you how powerful getting grass levels of graveyard setup is in 40 cards. While Monster Gate all but prevents the use of hand traps, we are nonetheless on a suite of going second support, with Super Polymerization, Void Imagination doing its best impression of Shaddoll Fusion, and enough play starters that they can't negate them all. Right? Going second, we should be able to push through a board wipe by flexing LAIR and Ntis as removal spells, and when we're forced to go first, shudder, we'll do our best to activate Void Feast early and often, though not as early and often enough that I'd consider playing Lilith. So with that, let's get into the card by card. Firstly, our Noids. We're on 2 Mommy Anonku and 2 Daddy Deviati. After that are the instant speed Tributors that flex as win conditions, 1 Atondel and 2 Seismitas. Followed by that are our conditional removal spells, Hamadic and Piatti, both at 2, so we can always access one with Decatron. Finally, we've got the Decatrinity and Sajet. After that are our 1-card play starters, 3 Monster Gate, 1 Reasoning, and 3 Extravagance. After that, we've got 3 Super Polymerization and 3 Lair of Darkness with a Terraforming, the best removal non-destruction can buy. We're then on a Foolish, a 1-for-1, and our Void cards, 3 each of Imagination, Vanishment, and Feast. In the extra, we've got an Extravagance board of 3 Tierra, 3 Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, 3 Ntis, 3 Mud Dragon, and 3 Doolittle Chimera for OTKs. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Marincess, and I don't care how many of you play this on YGO Pro, I will not take this deck seriously. Our opponent's going first, and they have everything they need, so let's see how far they can get. They're going to lead with a copy of Reinforcement of the Army, adding a copy of Crusader Arborea to hand, followed by a Foolish Burial and a Signet Mining, adding a Blue Tang. They'll then normal summon a copy of Blue Tang, trigger its effect before link summoning a copy of Blue Slug. They'll activate Blue Tang's effect and Blue Slug's, finding off the top nothing. Wow, what a fantastic Foxy. Afterwards, they'll special summon a copy of Seahorse and Sea Archiver before going into Sea Angel to add a Battle Ocean, a Coral Anemone to bring back this copy of Seahorse, and a Marbled Rock. Afterwards, going to trigger the grave effect of Coral Anemone, special summon a copy of Crusadia Arborea, link summon a copy of Crystal Heart, and wow, this Wonder Heart is nigh invulnerable. Thankfully, we do have the tools to deal with it. We're going to lead with a Pot of Extravagance, and unfortunately we banish 2 Ntis, but 1's all you need. We'll go ahead and activate Tierra's effect, sending 3 cards from our ED to the graveyard to destroy this Battle Ocean, and look at that, they have Ntis targets too. Well, thankfully, there shouldn't be a second turn. We're going to use Decatron to set a copy of Hamadic to graveyard to destroy our opponent's monster. And of course, they float to infinity, but now we're just 1 removal spell off from winning the game. We'll activate Monster Gate, and if you want a snack, this is probably the time to get one. I'll be here. Waiting. Ah, there he is. We'll special summon a copy of Decatron. We don't have any targets left, but that's fine. We'll special summon a copy of Hobbitick, destroy our opponent's remaining monsters, special summon a copy of Doolittle, a Seismitas, and a Deviati, which should be more than enough to deal lethal damage to our opponent's life points. Feels good to win a game against a deck whose cards you refuse to read on principle. Our second match is up against a Necroz and a player named Drift's Feet Picks. Oh, Jesus. Oh, okay. They're forcing us to go first, which makes sense because they're playing Trishula. Thankfully, we've drawn just about the best opener we can. We're going to lead with a copy of Pot of Extravagance, of course, and what do we find off the top? But... oh, a bunch of cards that don't matter. We're going to activate Void Vanishment, kind of telegraphing that we have the Void Feast here. We'll set Lair of Darkness and set a Void Feast, hoping for no Ash. We'll activate it in draw phase, and there's 2 Decatrons and a Sajet. Off the Decatrons, of course, we're going to send a copy of Anonku and a copy of Deviati, so we can negate everything and anything. They're going to lead with a copy of Called by the Grave. I'm going to negate it because I don't feel like getting in a ruling discussion with Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro. They're then going to special summon a copy of Talismandra and Candle. I'm trying to get them off of ritual spells, so I'll negate the Candle's effect. They'll then activate Brio. They'll activate Chalice Slime for Pensaplume. Adding back the Chalice Slime, we will tribute the Pensaplume in order to banish it, and I'm thinking anything but Kloss, anything but Kloss. Of course they have it. They'll mirror for a copy of Trishula, but truthfully, with a graveyard this set up, I'm not particularly beat up about it. In end phase, we're going to scapegoat our opponent. You're welcome! Never say I don't do anything for ritual players. And just activate Anonku at our earliest possible opportunity. We're going to activate its effect to destroy the entire board, and then we'll activate Monster Gate. It's time to... Decatron. We're going to activate Decatron's effect. Of course, we'll send a copy of Atondel, then activate Decatron's effect to banish this copy of Mirror. We'll special summon both an Anonku and an Atondel, and there's Valk. Okay, one more draw step for you. Let's see what you got. Can you beat this board? Is it? Nope, it's not an out. Alright, so it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on Guru, and I love this deck, but God, we have a bad matchup. Guru can find a consistent number of negates without having to rely on onboard monsters to do so. You can see why this might be a problem for us. Our opponent's going first, of course. They're going to activate Pot of Extravagance, drawing 2 cards off the top of their deck before activating Hidden City, adding a Guru to hand. They'll activate Hidden City's second effect to flip up the Guru, and Guru's effect to get a final battle, telegraphing a Fiendish in hand. They'll then Pot of Duality, adding a second one, set 3, and pass. So I'm pretty sure there's 2, and I know there's 1 Fiendish. It's time to bait. We're going to lead with a Foolish Burial and a Homidic, trying to get a tier, but they have the Infinite Impermanence. Shoot. That means we're going to have to get it with a copy of Monster Gate. They'll negate a tier, setting back down their copy of Guru. We'll then activate Void Vanishment. I still think there's potential for us to win it. They'll activate Final Battle at end step, flipping up this copy of Guru. As they add the Umo, we are confirmed there is a second Fiendish. Now, when they flip down the Guru, Fiendish is actually off for a short period of time, so we can Void Feast, and they drew Ash for turn. God, what a rip. Okay, we're taking twin 16s here, and the game is effectively over. They'll activate Pot of Duality in main phase 2 to add Insult to Injury and find another copy of a Floodgate. They'll pass it back to us. For turn, we draw a copy of Void Imagination, but I'm fine discarding it to wipe your board for a Mud Dragon. Weren't expecting that, were ya? Of course, this doesn't do anything, and to add Insult to Injury, they not only have another copy of Hidden City, they draw a Pot of Extravagance. Let's go to game 2. So it's time for game 2, and while our opponent has found access to their linear game plan, they lack the floodgates that would keep us out of the game. Let's see if we can make this happen. They're going to lead with a copy of Terraforming to find a copy of Hidden City. You already have one. Don't be greedy. Then they're going to add a Guru to hand and flip it up, adding a copy of Fiendish to hand, setting 1 card and passing. We draw off the top a copy of Lair of Darkness, which is fantastic. We're going to normal summon a copy of Decatron, prompting an effect failure from our opponent, followed by a special summon of Petraela and an activation of Lair of Darkness, which fiends the fiend. This gives us the perfect opening to activate Reasoning. If you have a snack, now is the time. Wow, this is still going, huh? Ah, there he is. Wow, 25 cards off the top. Keep Grass Band, guys. We're going to activate Petraela to prompt the activation of this final battle. They're going to add a copy of Fiendish to hand, but there will not be another turn for my opponent. We're going into Doolittle, Atondel, and Deviati to destroy this copy of Hidden City and get in for 33, 19, and 3,400 points of damage. Alright, so it's time for game 3, and... oh, they're making us go first. Okay, well... I kind of expected this was going to happen eventually. Our hand isn't very good, as expected. Let's see if we can get something done. We're going to activate Lair of Darkness and activate Decatron's effect, which eats an impermanence. Well, we can technically still have instant speed disruption if we banish our entire hand for Seismitas. This isn't as bad as it seems. We can tribute our opponent's copy of Guru, which means they aren't going to be able to activate its effect until they find a set rotation off of a duality. Necro Valley main, come on. Okay, here's Hidden City, here's Guru. They're going to set 3 and pass it back to us. Maybe the battle phase will work in my favor. Okay, clearly not. They're going to prevent effect negation, then flip down my copy of Seismitas. We'll flip up Seismitas and pass it back. They'll activate a second copy of Final Battle, and I have seen enough. So we're back with the deck, and I am pleased and more than a little surprised about the playability of this pile. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, it's super consistent. Your game plan is basically to draw Decatron, or 1-for-1, or Void Vanishment, or Imagination, bid about 4,000 cards, and then assemble one of 17 OTKs. This is a line the deck finds with incredible frequency. 2, it's explosive. While the ban list didn't do a fantastic job of making decks less powerful, it did a great job of making them less repeatable. A Heavy Storm in Deviati or a Dark Hole in Anonku is much harder to survive than it was pre-July. And 3, it is decent at dispatching meta dinguses. Boy, are the top decks ill-equipped to beat Tribute Summon Removal or Graveyard Banish effects. And the cons. 1, you're going second without hand traps. I expect you'd board into them, of course, or maybe even play like an Impermanence main board, but in a format where Elpie is lurking around every corner like a mischievous character in a Tom and Jerry cartoon, that's more than a little frightening. 2, while it's not a huge problem, the fact that you're only on one level 1 normal summonable monster means you're never resolving reasoning as anything other than a self-mill. And 3, super polymerization tends to take a bit of a playability hit in an unknown metagame. Don't worry, I mean, Muddragon still comes up frequently, but it's hardly the board-clearing super spell it needs to be, especially on YGO Pro. All in all, I love it. I mean, while this list might not be the optimal build, I think Noid should definitely be on your radar for the near future. Just try to sequence a little better than I did. So that's that. While I appreciate all of my viewers, a special thanks to my patrons, especially Colin Whalen, Michael Salmuir, Adrian Bra, Adam Trevino, Distrin, Isaac Jackson, Lieutenant Labcoat, Lucas Geardis, and Second. If you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on twitch.tv/mbtygo every Monday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.